Good evening. That's great to have you here. My name is David Whaley, and I'm Dean of the College of Education and Human Services. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2026 Dr. Harry M. Sparks Distinguished Lecture. We have so many special guests with us this evening, and unfortunately, little time to be able to introduce all of our guests, because that's all of you, and we could spend the rest of this evening introducing each other. But I think if you're okay with it, I'll just move ahead with my remarks. Please know that we're very, very honored that you chose to attend this event. Given the weather circumstances that we have outside right at the moment, we value you greatly for the choice that you made to be with us in Dr. Magro this evening. We also want to give recognition to our veterans and veteran families, both past and present. Thank you for your service, and may we ask you to stand or wave from where you are. And can we give them a round of applause, please? I also want to say thank you to a very special group of individuals. These are the individuals that have been working on the Sparks Lecture for months now. And these are individuals that have been doing all of the background work to ensure that we have a nice, safe, warm, comfortable environment and a good dinner afterwards. I'd like to make sure, I don't think Claire is with us, is she? Claire Lane is out in the hallway directing traffic. We have Jill Smith, or Jillian Smith, however you like it. Jill Smith is our media person, is our marketing person in the dean's office. We have Angie McCord in the back, and Angie is the individual that knows where all the dollars are in this college. Yes, and she is an individual that is our accountant, is our personnel individual, and does so many other things. We all kind of cross over in terms of our responsibilities. And lastly, I'd like to introduce Dr. Samir Patel, who is the assistant dean in the college. I'm very lucky to be surrounded by such a wonderful team. As we gather this evening, we recognize that April is Autism Awareness Month, a time dedicated to increasing understanding, acceptance, and advocacy for individuals on the autism spectrum. It's a time to elevate our voices, share stories, and celebrate those who are making a meaningful difference in the lives of others. Along with that, we want to take a moment to recognize Teacher Appreciation Week, National Teacher Appreciation Week, which will be celebrated next week, May 4th through the 8th. You know, it was first established by Eleanor Roosevelt in 1953. This week, or next week actually, honors teachers and school leaders for the lasting impact they have on our lives and communities. Here in Kentucky alone, we have 43,000 teachers teaching 650,000 students. This is a powerful reminder of the reach and responsibility of the teaching profession. I know we have many educators with us this evening. Please join me in recognizing them with a round of applause. And will they wave or stand? We are so very pleased that you chose to be with us this evening. You know, as John F. Kennedy stated, our progress as a nation can be no swifter than our progress in education. The human mind is our fundamental resource. In that same spirit, we also want to take time this evening to recognize outstanding educators from across the region, individuals who have been nominated by their peers. We ran advertisements in many different papers over the radio waves and in personal emails to get nominations of the very, very best. And we're here to recognize them this evening. The reason this is called the Harry M. Sparks Lecture dates back to 1980, when the Board of Regents recognized that Dr. Sparks had made a lasting contribution in so many different ways. He was a dedicated leader in education whose career reflected kind of similar careers to many of us in the room that have come up through the teaching ranks. He started out as a teacher and a coach. He later served as head of the Kentucky Department of Education and superintendent of public instruction under the Breathitt administration. And then he went on to become the 5th president of Murray State University, serving until 1973. In recognition of his many contributions, the Murray Chamber of Commerce in 1969 recognized him as the Man of the Year. To his legacy, the Board of Regents established this distinguished lecture series, an opportunity to bring voices to campus who challenge us, inspire us, and advance our understanding of service, leadership, and impact. In that same spirit, it is especially fitting that we welcome tonight's speaker, Dr. Kerry Magro. Dr. Magro is an award-winning professional speaker. He's a best-selling author and an autistic self-advocate who has become a powerful voice within the disability community. Nonverbal at age 2.5 and diagnosed with autism at the age of 4, he has overcome significant challenges to build a career centered on advocacy, education, and empowerment. He is the author of 2 best-selling books, Defining Autism from the Heart and Autism and Falling in Love, and serves as an advisor on best practices for cast members on the popular Love on the Spectrum, now in its 4th season with Netflix. I actually counted 7 books outside that you have authored, so congratulations. As Dr. Magro has said, autism can't define me. I define autism. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kerry Magro to the podium.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? I am so excited to be here with all of you. We were running through a little bit of a technical glitch, so I will take one quick second to do that, but I'm so excited to be here with all of you this evening for this presentation. So just give me one quick second and then we will be good to go. Oh no, I'm just changing the sound now. All right. Well, thank you all again. You gotta love when tech works. I'm so excited to be here with all of you, and a little bit about my journey. So I was diagnosed with this thing called autism when I was 4 years old. It was a time when there was really not a lot of conversations around autism in our community. And today, we know that autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities. But to kickstart our presentation tonight, I'm going to share a quick video with all of you so you could get a little glimpse into my journey. I hope you enjoy.
Our next guest is an accomplished public speaker and activist who has devoted his life to helping others. Not bad for a guy who was completely nonverbal for the first few years of his life. But once Kerry Magro found his voice, he had a lot to say.
Dr. Kerry Magro is an award-winning professional speaker, best-selling author, and one of the leading advocates for the autism community. He has written 5 books all of which have reached Amazon's bestseller list and earned his doctorate in educational technology leadership. Over the past decade, Carey has dedicated his career to empowering individuals with disabilities, promoting inclusion, and sharing his personal journey from non-speaking autism to becoming a full-time speaker. For his efforts, he's been featured in major media outlets such as The Today Show, CBS News, and The New York Times. In addition to his speaking work, Carey is the CEO and president of his nonprofit, where he has provided scholarships to autistic students for college. He also started a grant program to help provide financial resources for special education teachers, aides, and therapists to support their classrooms. Carey has collaborated with global businesses like Google, BlackRock, and American Express to highlight the ROI benefits of autism and neurodiversity in the workplace. He has also partnered with schools, nonprofits, and parent organizations, spreading the message of inclusion far and wide. Beyond his work as a speaker, Carey, who grew up with a love of theater, has served as an autism entertainment consultant for both TV and film projects to bring a realistic portrayal of autism to the screen. He was the autism consultant for the film The Present, starring Greg Kinnear, and even received a credit in Ezra, starring Robert De Niro. He's also contributed his expertise as a consultant for Netflix's 5-time Emmy award-winning series Love on the Spectrum US. And now, without further ado, Dr. Carey Magro.
Thank you all. Thank you. A letter I would have written for my parents when I was still non-speaking. Dear Mom and Dad, I know it's breaking your heart to see me as I am now. Most of the kids we know are starting to talk, while I'm just making sounds. I'm lashing out because I'm struggling. I can't communicate my needs, and things are just not going the way I wish they would. I scream and fight with you every single time you try to bathe me because I can't stand the feeling of water on my skin. And I cringe anytime I hear thunder. And I can't be touched because of my sensory issues. Even now, as we make all the adorable videos of me as dressed up as one of the best looking toddlers of all time, I know things aren't easy, and we don't know what the future has in store. I want to tell you, though, to keep fighting for me and believing in me, because without you both, the greatest advocates I'll ever have in my life, I'm not going to be the person I am today. There is hope, and you both play a huge part in that. Things are going to get better, and without you, that wouldn't be possible. At 2.5, I'm going to say my first few words. And at 4, you're going to find out from a doctor I have this thing called autism. In 1992 will be something you have only heard from some of the leading experts in the field and the 1988 movie Rain Man. The road now is going to be difficult, but we're going to get through it together. Supports are going to be difficult to come by at this point. The numbers of autism in the United States are 1 in every 1,000 being diagnosed, and so many people still don't understand. Life is going to be difficult. Challenges are coming, but here's why you should fight through those challenges. By fighting for me every single day and helping me go through occupational, physical, speech, music, and theater therapy for the next 16 years, while giving me love at home and in school, I'm going to grow into an adult who's a full-time professional speaker and gives talks around autism, neurodiversity, and inclusion with schools and companies across the globe. Because if you fight for me right now and never give up, not only will I be that speaker, but I'll have the opportunity to write 7 books that reach an Amazon bestseller list, consult for a major motion picture that makes $30 million, work on a Netflix show that makes it to the top 10 shows on Netflix for 4 consecutive seasons, and be someone who gives you love every single day. I will grow into an adult who embraces affection. Love, your son, Carey. I hope for anyone listening to this tonight, now coming from a 38-year-old autistic adult who has his doctorate in education, that you never give up on supporting your loved ones. The autism spectrum is wide, and everyone's journey is going to be slightly different. Become an advocate and fight for reliable autism resources across the lifespan and across the spectrum for those in our community. And you know, as we continue to learn more and more about autism, if I leave you with anything tonight, it's a message that I've continued to share all month, but actually all year round. Being kind to someone with autism isn't being a hero. It's being a decent human being. As we end this month, which is known as Autism Acceptance Month, the message I have for everyone in this room is simple. Human decency, especially during our climate right now, is so critically important. You know, in addition to that, every parent plans to raise their child for the next 18 years, set them free for the next 30 years, and then hope they come back to help them face the final years of their own life. An autism parent can sometimes plan to raise their child for 65 years, and while doing so, also has to prepare the next 20 years after they themselves are long gone. And let that sink in just for a moment tonight, and you'll begin to understand the drive and the determination that many families carry every single day within our community. Because when we talk about autism, this is what we're really talking about. We're not just talking about the diagnosis, we're not talking about the label of autism, but we're talking about the lifelong journey, because autistic children will become autistic adults. And tonight, that includes every single one of you in this room. Because whether you're a future educator getting your degree at this university, a current educator who's teaching the future generations of educators, or someone working in this space, you are part of that long-term story. You're part of the support system that families are counting on. You're a part of the reason a parent can feel hope about what their child's future may look like. And for me personally, this is a big part of why I do what I do. As someone who was non-speaking until 2.5 and diagnosed with autism at 4 and didn't speak in full sentences until I was 7, I'm standing here today because of educators and professionals who didn't just see where I was, they believed in where I could go. And now as a full-time speaker traveling to speak at these schools, universities, and companies, this is exactly why I give talks like tonight, to help bridge the gap between understanding and action, to help create more environments where individuals on the spectrum and their families feel supported. So tonight, I want to talk to you about what actually looks like. What does real inclusion mean beyond the buzzwords? How do we support individuals across the spectrum, including those with higher support needs? And how can we create environments where every individual and every family feels seen and supported? Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about autism. It's about impact. It's about responsibility. And it's about the role each of us play in shaping someone else's future. And growing up for a long time during my adolescence, we always talked about autism as white males who had a quote unquote superpower. And as I was telling many of the students today when I went to one of the classrooms, everyone just assumed that autistic people were white males growing up, that they had photographic memories, and that when they turned 21, you would call Tom Cruise up, have a few shots with him, and win him $88,000 on the blackjack tables counting cards. We now know the importance of understanding the spectrum, but the pivot in our conversations is that this is not only Autism Awareness Month, but it's Acceptance, Action, and Celebration Month as well. Show of hands tonight. How many of you have a child who's impacted by autism? How many of you are educators who support individuals with autism? Therapists? Any self-advocates in the room as well? Because your stories matter just as much. Grandparents? The reason why I bring this up is because it truly takes a village. And that's something my parents didn't have when I was initially diagnosed. We didn't have any conversations around autism. And in many of my classrooms, I was in a multi-handicap classroom for kids the ages of 6 to 14, which just goes to show how far we've gone in our special education system. But as one of my dear friends in the autism world, her name is Dr. Temple Grandin. You may hear about her story in the future. She has a great quote where she says that interests and talents can turn into careers. And that's why I'm saying here, one of the messages I often share with educators is the importance of not educating based on the deficit model, where it feels like a lot of the time in our universities, we focus 99.9% of the time on what our students' challenges are. But what are we doing to nurture their strengths? So growing up, my parents nurtured my two key interests, which was one, to become the next Kobe Bryant. So growing up, I could tell you all 30 NBA teams and every single player on one of those teams. And that led to me getting a degree in sport management from Seton Hall University, where I got the great opportunity to work on the March Madness tournament. I got the opportunity to work with CBS Sports. But then I realized along the way during that journey that there were a lot of individuals with disabilities who couldn't speak up and advocate for themselves. So I changed career paths. I took my second key interest, which was to become the sixth member of the Backstreet Boys. I wanted the white suit from the I Want It That Way video for my 11th birthday. You know, one of the first dates I ever went on, I asked a 16-year-old girl to the Millennium concert. Being an 11-year-old boy, I thought that I was going to nail that. But growing up with sensory challenges, always being affected by loud noises, there was always something soothing about music. So my parents integrated music and theater therapy into helping me find my voice, and that later on led me to become one of the first certified professional speakers who's openly autistic in the United States 15 years ago. It's given me the wonderful opportunity to speak at over 1,500 events, get the opportunity to work with our companies about the ROI benefits of hiring autistic people in the workplace, gain the opportunity to speak with our universities about teaching the way that our students learn, and so many more audiences along the way. The poem that I shared with you at the beginning of today's presentation was actually in my first book, Defining Autism from the Heart. When I was growing up, a lot of people came up to me and they said, "Carey, you have autism, but you don't look like you have autism." And I tell them I parted my hair the other way today so you can see the autism. Because that's the trick, guys. If you part your hair, you're not autistic anymore. But I actually wrote my first book as a way of educating my friends and family members about my autism when they didn't see it on the surface. I assumed it'd be a nice Christmas gift for my parents, but within 3 days, it became an Amazon bestseller for special need parenting, and it continued to give us a platform to discuss autism in our community. After our presentation tonight, we'll have a book signing table right outside. If you would like to check out any of our books, more than happy to talk to you guys for a few minutes afterwards today. In addition to that, gain the opportunity to write 6 books after that based on the autism world we live in. And one of the coolest opportunities was getting the opportunity to become an autism entertainment consultant. Over the past few years, I've gotten the opportunity to work with Warner Brothers, HBO, and then also Netflix, 7-time Emmy Award-winning series Love on the Spectrum. By a show of hands, has anyone seen the show? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. I wrote a book called Autism and Falling in Love based on my own journey trying to find love on the spectrum. And I sent that book to a director in Australia working on a show called Love on the Spectrum Australia. And later on, that led for me becoming a paid consultant with Netflix to actually introduce autism to every single crew member so they can best meet every single individual where they are to make sure that they are finding their loves on the spectrum, the Dannys, the Abbeys, and so many more incredible people in our community today. And for those who are new to our show, I want to share a quick clip of our most recent season, which came out on April 1st for Autism Acceptance Month. I hope you enjoy.
Here? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm real nervous.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back again.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be back, Kian.
What does love mean to you?
Oh, love means that you and the other person understand each other.
It'll be like a fairy tale, true love, like Cinderella, Snow White, or Sleeping Beauty, or whatever.
Not if the glass slipper fits, but if the cowboy boot fits right.
Falling in love is gonna be the most amazing thing in the world.
It just feels like chomping on candy.
No.
Finding love can be hard for anyone.
My mouth burns.
Do you want to ask me a question?
Oh, yes.
And for some people, it can feel like an impossible dream.
Well, the most important thing in their life right now is to get away from me. Dad! Buckingham Palace!
This series follows people on the autism spectrum
Hi, everybody.
as they navigate the confusing world of relationships
I just need to work on responding before reacting.
Like, what if he's not the one?
and dating.
Hello.
Hi.
What if he gives me a wedding ring?
Staying in front of this church made me think.
So, getting the opportunity, every single episode that we have, we ironically enough, the director asked me, hey, how do you feel this episode was portrayed? Are there any other topics that we can discuss? And we go back and forth. Every season is a year-long process. We're actually starting season 5 right now, and I just gave the sensitivity training last week to the crew to be sensitive to people with autism. But things like different levels of autism, which we talked about in the most recent season. Not everyone with autism is going to be a full-time speaker and work for Netflix. There are going to be some individuals who need 24/7 care for their entire lives, and their stories matter just as much as mine speaking on this stage tonight. And individuals like Tanner have also been truly amazing. Getting to see all of these individuals get a national platform to discuss what's important to them in the autism community. And if anyone has seen the video of Tanner on the Kelly Clarkson show when he meets Jack Black, has anyone seen that? It is like a tearjerker. Definitely check it out on Instagram after tonight's presentation. But we'll have some time at the end for a Q&A, but I also hope that as part of this presentation tonight, that you all be able to gain someone who might be able to become part of your village. So with that, we have an interactive activity. We'd like you to partner up with someone preferably you don't know. I know it feels like first day of school. Are they going to like me? And ask them this question. When was the first time you were introduced to the topic of disability? If it was when you were in school, when you met a self-advocate who had a disability, or maybe it was when you were going for your teaching degree, or when you initially had a child who was diagnosed with autism. So we'll spend the next 3 to 5 minutes doing that. Also, I will be coming around with forms. I see a few of you guys already taking photos of the slides. We'll be providing you the PowerPoint slide notes so you don't miss any of the resources tonight. We'll leave you a form with, if you leave your name and email, we'll make sure you get all the slides because we're going to share a lot of resources that you guys could utilize. So for the next 3 to 5 minutes, when were you first introduced to the topic of disability? Thank you. Hey everyone, Clap once if you could hear me. Clap twice if you could hear me. Sing I Want It That Way if you can hear me. No, I'm kidding. No, there are some people who actually do that. Clap 3 times if you could hear me. Clap 4 times? No. It's okay. You don't have to anymore. Hey, guys. Well, guys, I hope that was beneficial. And we do this activity because we also want you to be able to gain knowledge about the people next to you. So again, if you're meeting someone for the first time who you may have just introduced yourself, share that business card because it does take a village. I want you guys to be able to find your village as part of tonight's presentation as well. So a few of you, as I was going around talking to a few of you guys, a few of you asked me what's the first time I was introduced to the topic of disability. So we were playing Disability Celebrity Bingo in a social skills class when I was 11 years old, where we were learning that 6-time NBA champion from the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, was diagnosed with ADHD at a very early age. And his parents used basketball as a reward system to make sure that he was succeeding academically. And my favorite on that list was Dan Aykroyd. Now, Dan Aykroyd grew up with autism, but he, like myself, grew up with 2 laser-focused key interests. But his 2 laser-focused key interests were, 1, to be a crime detective, which is awesome, and secondly, to become a ghost hunter. And he took those 2 key interests to co-write a script with Bill Murray. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't. I think it came out in the 80s, right? Yeah. Does anyone remember what that was? Ghostbusters, yeah. So Ghostbusters. Years later, he would say that was because of his autism, he was able to come up with that script. So as we have larger conversations about autism on our college campuses, one of the things I want us to continue to reinforce with many of our students is the importance of understanding neurodiversity, because your voice has true power to make effective change in our community. Because guys, the numbers are staggering in our society today. The majority of autistic adults are still unemployed or underemployed. But what we realize is these 3 key facts. Those with disabilities are more likely to stay at a job longer. They're more likely to take less time off from work. And when we talk about reasonable accommodations and thinking about the bottom line with our companies, the majority of reasonable accommodations cost absolutely nothing. And when it does, it's typically just an onboarding fee of $500. So I reinforce with employee resource groups and companies around the globe about the importance of, it's not what a company can do for someone with autism, it's what someone with autism can do for that company. So in addition to that, only about 1 in 3 autistic students from the ages of 18 to 24 pursue a post-secondary education. And the list goes on and on. When I was growing up, it was about 1 in every 10 individuals having a disability. Today, it's 1 in 5. And I know a few of you during the interactive activity just told me straight up, back in my day, nobody talked about autism and ADHD. And I get that a lot. A lot of people come up to me and say, well, back in my day, we didn't have any of that because it was being underdiagnosed in our community. We live in a digital age. It's a big reason why we're seeing an increase. But we know it's not the only reason. We need to have larger conversations about autism in our community. So how can you go about supporting autistic students on this campus, Murray State University today? You don't need to wait until graduation to make a difference. Promoting inclusion in group work for the students here tonight. Be mindful that some students may communicate differently. About 30% of autistic students from K through university speak in other ways. They communicate in other ways that you and me don't. A lot of individuals in our community, augmentative alternative communication, American Sign Language, the list goes on and on. Simple things matter. Invite someone to join your study group or lunch table. Be patient with different communication styles. And if you're studying education here tonight, learn universal design of learning, because we are seeing that lecture style is dying in many of our classrooms. That's also why we do interactive activities. We want you guys to get engaged and be able to get up, because we know that's how people typically learn best. And if an autistic student on your campus may need your support, if you see someone struggling, ask, how can I help? Because small questions can lead to big outcomes. Small questions can lead to big outcomes. Because when I was growing up, people knew that I did this thing called stimming, where I'd move my hands back and forth. I I've been like stimming, I've been like leaning back and forth like Fat Joe the entire presentation. And honestly, that's a way of helping me feel comfortable. And every single one of you guys in this room have also been stimming. When you guys have moved your hands back and forth, when you've rocked back and forth in your chair, that's a stim, and it helps every single one of us self-regulate. So remember, small questions can lead to big outcomes. So my college experience, what helped me? Some challenges I dealt with, difficulty with transitions. A lot of our autistic kids are very concise, and building a structure and breaking down big tasks into subtasks using even from the bare minimum artificial intelligence to break down those big steps that may seem impossible into smaller steps can be really beneficial for most of our students. Also understanding sensory overload in large lecture halls, being able to provide a sensory-friendly environment, being able to provide noise-canceling headphones, being able to provide fidgets, being able to provide more visuals in our classrooms. It all makes sense, not only for many of our autistic students, but many of our students attending our programs. Managing anxiety and burnout. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's a great transition at the end of April because a lot of autistic people deal with mental health associated challenges. So things that help me succeed, professors who are approachable and flexible, clear written instructions and expectations, and opportunities to communicate through email or writing instead of speaking immediately. I believe that we should ask every single one of our students how they communicate best and validate their choices by using the method that they prefer. Some individuals, like in the autism and ADHD world, have awful time with eye contact. They have awful time with small talk. And I'm sure many of you have heard this in the corporate world. That meeting could have been an email. There's some individuals in our society who just learn best that way. And also understanding this, again, the mental health impact in our college campuses right now is staggering. We need to provide more mental health supports. We need to talk to our counseling support services to make sure that less individuals are falling through the cracks, especially in our disability world. Now, autism is not a mental health condition, but many individuals with autism do relate with mental health challenges that we may never see on the surface. I still deal with challenges to this day, stimming, sensory overload, and also mind blindness, sometimes not being able to understand the perspectives of others. My fiance tells me about that daily. So understanding that is really, really important. And as we continue to have larger conversations, guys, there are some great ways where you could start the conversation with your students to meet them where they are. There are countless celebrities who have gone out of their way to support the autism community, which could be a great way of helping start those initial conversations. Again, meeting our students where they are. Tommy Hilfiger is a dear friend. He has a son who's on the autism spectrum, and he actually started a sensory-friendly clothing line because he got tired of cutting out all the tags in his son's clothes. I hate when that happens. That's why like Hanes is amazing. But anyways, long story short, he understands and is supported as part of his philanthropy, the Tommy Hilfiger Foundation, supporting autism-related causes. Anna Kendrick, another big individual in our community, dealt with bullying growing up and dealt with a lot of challenges. And it's actually related with a lot of our fans who are on the autism spectrum. Taylor Swift has realized that countless individuals in our community who have autism have been positively impacted by music. And a few years ago, she actually gave $30,000 to one of her biggest fans who's on the autism spectrum so he could get a service dog to help him in his local community. Again, just small things that can make a huge impact. Luke Bryan has a nephew who's on the autism spectrum and has used his voice on his social media platforms to discuss autism in our society. And then also my favorite on this list, because I've watched his movies 20 times over, Kevin Hart. Now, Kevin Hart was a victim of bullying growing up because he was one of the smallest kids in his classes. And he takes the power away from bullies by sharing about how short he is in many of his stand-up specials. And in 2016, one of the things I share with students is that he came out with a movie called Central Intelligence with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, where one of the underlying themes around that movie is about the importance of bullying prevention, especially around those with disabilities. And then also another great way of educating our students more about this topic is making them realize this. Some people with disabilities have amazing abilities as well. Again, I will never say that autism is a superpower, but I do think that some people with autism have the ability to do some incredible things. 2 months ago, Bill Gates was on CNN, and he said that he would have been diagnosed with autism today if he was a child. And it just goes to show some individuals are very intelligent. We just have to meet them where they are. Individuals like the Michael Jordans of the world, Dan Aykroyd's, in addition to Magic Johnson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Justin Timberlake, Michael Phelps. The list goes on and on. And as we have larger conversations about that in our community, it's also important to note this. One of the most overlooked parts of supporting students with disabilities such as autism isn't academic, it's emotional. A lot of our students can be very book smart, but how are we doing to build their social skills? What are we doing to make sure that we are providing them measurable goals to break down things like social skills to help them truly thrive? I wrote a book called Autistics on Autism. As part of my nonprofit philanthropy work, I provide 162 scholarships for autistic students to pursue a post-secondary education in the past 13 years because I wanted to do something to give back. I actually had a bunch of them come out with a book with me that'll be available to check out outside called Autistics on Autism, where we highlight 100 autistic adult stories on what helped them pursuing a post-secondary education. And we actually worked with 5 amazing academic professors who all have autism programs at their universities to have a roundtable conversation at the end of the book to actually educate more people about the importance of autism in post-secondary. We had individuals talk about their misconceptions that they would like to see debunked and so much more. So meet students where they are. How do we go about this process? We need to think about guiding principles like assume variability, skills, sensory profiles, and also executive functioning strengths. Also looking at clarity, flexibility beating one size fits all. And remembering this, if it isn't written down, it did not happen. Documentation is so important for our educators in 2026. Also balancing. How do we go about setting clear expectations and using predictable workflows to help build synergy between our coworkers, but then also at the end of the day, also focusing on the future for these individuals too. In addition to that, continuing to provide accommodations in our workplaces for our students, whether that be visuals, whether that means talking to our custodial teams about providing cleaning products with neutral smells for individuals who might have smell sensitivity. We talk a lot about autism and we talk a lot about sound sensitivity and light sensitivity, but we have to focus primarily on all 5 senses. Those additional 3 senses can't fall through the cracks. Encouraging growth with guided challenges. And it's always essential that autistic students share why the accommodation is reasonable. And if you have a student who feels like they can't share about their autism diagnosis in your class, make sure to provide those positive peer role models for them to look up to so they can flourish, because it's not about using their disability as a crutch. It's about leveling the playing field, and that's what these accommodations do. So structuring teamwork for neurodiverse learners, considering working with your university on peer mentorship programs, alumni associations. Because when I was growing up, the biggest challenge I had was I didn't have anyone to look up to who also had an autism diagnosis. Giving our kids the opportunity to be motivated by individuals who have walked the walk can be really beneficial. During this, reflecting our roles that fit and focus on collaboration patterns, and then also acknowledging diverse contributions equally. Also considering, again, when we talk about sensory friendly, there are so many great ways of helping our classrooms thrive today. For example, adjustable and dimmable lighting, reducing visual clutter when possible as well. Quiet rooms should be, I think, in all of our schools. Being able for people to understand that meltdowns aren't just something that happens with autistic children. It can happen with a lot of our autistic adults as well. Post-visual schedules, and then also flexible seating. I'm seeing more universities institute standing desks. Really a great way of helping the neurodiverse mind. Understanding intersectionality and disability as well. Understanding this. In the Black, Hispanic, and Asian communities, those with autism are diagnosed later than white autistic individuals. Again, I worked on a show called The Good Doctor on ABC. I worked on the social media campaign for that show for its first season. And while it was a great show that got the opportunity to discuss autism in our communities, it continued to reinforce what we've seen in the Rain Man Society. We continue to reinforce this in a lot of our movies and TV. I got the opportunity to work on a film called Joyful Noise, starring Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton. And it was one of the first ever representations of someone who was Black, who was autistic in film. And it just goes to show we need to continue, when we talk about the spectrum, we also have to talk about the spectrum of diversity in our community. And also realizing this, bullying is not only a K through 12 issue. There's bullying that happens on our university campuses as well. And the majority of the time, bullying stops completely when a peer intervenes and says these 7 words. What you're doing is not okay. It's not enough just to be aware about what autism is in 2026. It's important to be an ally as well. Asking what universities also do to promote friendship and peer interaction. Challenging your universities to make sure that they are providing unified programming, especially for you educators who are going into K through 12 in the future. Looking at ways of spreading awareness all year round. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. October is National Disability Awareness Month. March is Developmental Disability Awareness Month. These are great ways to start the conversation around disability all year round. And then we can't forget about the LGBTQ plus community, because over the past few years, we've seen that a lot of autistic people who are self-aware about their autism diagnosis are also very self-aware about their own sexuality. And we need to continue to make sure that in the LGBTQ plus community, that these stories are being seen and validated in our conversations. I mentioned universal design for learning, and honestly, from what I've seen that's given our educators, it's a great way of helping them understand the full individual. Again, person-centered approaches to learning. Universal design for learning, a lot of what it does is looks at feedback that we could get from our students so we could create lesson plans to help nurture their strengths so much better. So finally, key takeaways from tonight. Again, we need to meet students where they are with clarity and compassion. Balance flexibility with rigor to grow independence, because it's not enough to be book smart. We need to teach these kids life skills, we need to teach them money management, and we need to think about dual enrollment in some situations, because the world in our current climate has looked vastly different with the advancements in artificial intelligence. We need to make sure our kids are flexible as much as they are smart and ready for the world around them. And again, designing an environment so students don't have to fight it, and being kind to people with disabilities isn't being a hero, it's being a decent human being. So finally, before we wrap up tonight's talk, I wanted to share one final letter with all of you that basically gives you a sense of my own journey and the journey I think we all have ahead. So this poem is called Dear Autism Community. Dear Autism Community, autism doesn't come with an instruction guide. It sometimes comes with a family who will never give up. I wrote those words because I've truly lived them. Autism is a journey of challenges, victories, and sometimes moments of uncertainty. But one thing remains true. We are never alone. Our community is built on strength, love, and resilience. We push for understanding when the world doesn't understand. We fight for resources when doors are closed. And we celebrate every small step forward because we know how much that matters. But the truth is, too many autistic individuals and their families still struggle to find support. Autism is lifelong, and support should be too. No one should be left behind because they quote unquote aged out of services. So tonight, I ask you, never stop advocating. Keep pushing for inclusion, for better resources, and for a world where autistic voices are not just heard, but valued. Autism is a lifelong journey, and so is our fight for acceptance. And as long as we believe, and as long as we fight, and as long as we never give up, there is always hope. Thank you all so much for having me here tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. Magro. A wonderful presentation, very illuminating, very educational, and you certainly are an advocate. We have every year we have a kind of a memento that we like to hand out to our guest speakers. And since this is a Sparks lecture, we use our imagination a little bit to talk about the flame that was caused by a spark. And you certainly caused a spark this evening. So thank you very much.
And any thoughts, questions? From tonight's lecture. And I was just in West Virginia speaking to 600 third graders, tough crowd. I told them that I'm an open book and you could ask me anything. The first 3 questions they asked me were, hey, I saw Taylor Swift in your slides. Have you ever met Taylor Swift? Haven't met Taylor Swift. Although my mentee did. That was the young boy in the video, in the photo. The second question was, well, have you met Katy Perry if you haven't met Taylor Swift? And I was like, I thought there was still bad blood there. And then the third question was, I kid you not, has anyone ever told you you look a little like George Clooney? And I'm like, how does a third grader know about George Clooney? It's like, is a third grader watching Michael Caine on the weekends, like rated R, like seeing, like, oh my God. So, needless to say, I'm an open book. You guys can ask me anything. Thoughts, questions? Yes.
How are you seeing the overall shift in the dominant discourse of individuals with disabilities, or autism, or otherwise, in the past, I guess even the past 10 years, like the younger generation?
Well, I think the biggest thing we're seeing, and the question was, how are we seeing the paradigm shift basically in disability, especially in our society today? We're seeing a more nuanced focus on neurodiversity. We're understanding that disability is not necessarily a limitation, especially in the autism, ADHD, and neurodiverse world. And we have to be mindful of that in our classrooms. I've seen a lot of that. There's also a great disability advocate. Her name is Judy Heumann. She was pivotal towards the 1990 American with Disabilities Act. And she has a great quote called "Nothing about us without us." And what I've seen, especially in the past decade, is a more focused approach on self-advocates getting the opportunity to lead conversations in our community today. We're seeing this with nonprofit organizations being formed. There's a group called the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network that is comprised mostly of autistic self-advocates. We're seeing that a lot in the ADHD community as well. We're finally seeing individuals, we still have a long way to go, mind you, but we're seeing more individuals who are actually self-advocates being able to share their rich first-person perspectives to make meaningful change on an advocacy level for people in our community. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen over the past decade. Any thoughts, questions? Yes.
I'm an educator and a parent of children on the spectrum, and my eldest is 22 years old, and what I'm struggling to find for him are resources on more adult social problems. You know, like for little kids, we would have the social stories and all those things to help them build their toolbox. But for him, you know, like how do you ask a girl out?
Right.
How do you navigate all these more adult situations? Do you have any tools or any
Yeah.
resources that I can point him towards? Because he is 22, so he's like, go
Well, yeah, no, I that was a big reason why I wrote my book, Autism and Falling in Love, because I realized that when we talk about adulthood for those with autism, we talk about 4 key pillars. We talk about housing, we talk about post-secondary, we talk about employment, and then we talk about guardianship, especially for those with high support needs. And what I realized is there weren't many resources around dating. So I wrote my perspective of trying to find love on the spectrum. That's part 1 of the book. And the second part of the book focuses on intimacy, hygiene, social communication, and how we can go about putting our best foot forward to actually find our loves on the spectrum, discussing things like appropriate and inappropriate behaviors, talking about your own sexuality, everything I mentioned in my book as a way of continuing this conversation, because when I was just starting off my nonprofit, I did peer mentoring for free for kids with disabilities from the ages of 16 to 24. None of them ever wanted to talk about mock interviews or resume building. They wanted to talk about the cute boy and the hot girl and how to get into a relationship. So that book was really a labor of love for me. And then also the show Love on the Spectrum, being able year after year to be able to work behind the scenes to make sure that we're getting to highlight every single individual in the best way possible has given a lot of hope for a lot of autistic people in our community, showing that it is possible. It's not just something we're having written down in a book. We have actual testimonies from the Tanners, the Abbeys, the Dannys of the world showing that it is possible. Great question. Yes. I always tell people it's like a good palate cleanser for The Bachelor, because when you watch The Bachelor sometimes, and my fiance is a stand-up comedian, so I did my first open mic, so I mentioned Love on the Spectrum, and what I mentioned was, well, like, David would tell Abby, it's like, I bought you this a lion because I thought you would like it. The Bachelor is like, I'm a 28-year-old hand model from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I just want a rich man to help pay for my lip filler. And I'm just like, come on. Well, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, that literally, I feel like it's most, like 95% of the show. I'm sorry if there's any Bachelor fan, you could fight me outside. It's just great because it also reinforces that some autistic people are the most authentic people in the world, and we just need to give them the opportunity to truly succeed. And your final thoughts, questions. We're right on time if there's any. Yeah, and then we'll wrap it up. And for just a housekeeping note, for all of you with the forms, we'll be right outside. You can leave your form with your name and email. We'll make sure you get all the PowerPoint slides. Yes. Sure.
I was wondering, when did you find out? How were you told? How was it explained to you? Because that's what I'm thinking about, is having that conversation with my son and explaining what it means. And even though I've done it in a professional setting, it's so different.
Yeah, and I get this question a lot. I was speaking with educators a few weeks ago, to K through 12 educators, and they brought it up because there was pushback from the parents because they didn't want to tell their kid, boys will be boys, they'll grow out of it, et cetera, and so forth. But one of the things that I continue to talk about is that your child is the same child as they were before the diagnosis, as they are after the diagnosis. They may just have resources now to help them thrive. I believe that we should have those conversations as early as 4 years old, because when I learned about my diagnosis, it was actually during Disability Celebrity Bingo in the social skills class. I raised my hand at the end of the class and I said, so teacher, why am I special? And she said I had to talk to my parents about that. I was like, it's a loaded question, I get it. So I sat my parents down right after school that day, and it was the first time they ever told me I had autism, and it was life-changing. Being an 11-year-old boy who would line up blocks in my occupational therapy meetings and would not talk to any of the other kids and would avoid eye contact. Everything became full circle about who I was. I started sitting in on my IEP meetings to learn more about my reasonable accommodations and what that meant to me, and everything became full circle about who I was. I believe we should start that conversation as early as pre-K when these kids are getting the accommodations, because it can be a great way of helping them also self-advocate for the rest of their lives as well. So thank you all so much for having me here tonight.
All right, guys. Well, Dr. Magro, thank you very much for those inspiring words. I was sitting down taking notes vigorously, and a lot of ideas are circling the brain now. So I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate the words that you shared this evening. All right, so in addition to hearing Dr. Magro do his thing this evening, we're also here to celebrate outstanding educators. Let me pull this mic down a little bit. So, is it okay if I close this computer? Yeah, we're good? All right. All right, so we're here to celebrate educators who have gone above and beyond the commitment to excellence. Tonight, I have the distinct honor to recognize the 2026 Sparks Lecture Outstanding Educators. By the way, hello everybody, I am Samir Patel. Got a little bit ahead of myself. I am the Assistant Dean for the College of Education and Human Services, and I am happy to be here with you guys this evening. All right, so we're gonna call up our recipients. We have 4 awardees this evening. We will be calling up recipients one by one, and as you guys are called up, thank you, Jill. Our social media person, making sure that I look fine up on stage. Thank you. All right, as you guys are called up, I'm gonna call you guys one by one. You're gonna meet us down here at the backdrop. Dr. Whaley is going to give you your plaque, but also a book from Dr. Magro this evening, and we're going to take a picture with you guys and just hang out for a little while until all 4 recipients are called down here, and then we will take a group photo at the conclusion of this, and then we'll keep things moving. All right, so for our first award this evening, we're going to be presenting the Outstanding Early Childhood Educator. This year's recipient is Jay Stark. A kindergarten educator at Murray Elementary, Jay brings over 15 years of experience in early childhood education. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Music, which informs his creative and holistic approach in instruction, as well as 2 master's degrees, one in interdisciplinary early childhood education and another in education administration. Jay excels not only as a classroom teacher, but also as a mentor, a leader, a community partner. As one of his nominators indicated, Jay builds meaningful relationships with students, families, colleagues, and district stakeholders. His holistic relationship-centered approach exemplifies the very qualities this award seeks to recognize. Congrats, Jay. Our next award, Outstanding Elementary Educator, is presented to Mackenzie Fralix of Caldwell County Elementary School. With a background in both elementary and special education, Mackenzie creates inclusive and supportive learning environments for all students. As one nominator shared, Mackenzie is not only a fantastic teacher, but she takes on the toughest students and makes progress with them year after year. She not only supports them academically, but also builds their confidence through social emotional learning. In addition to being a phenomenal teacher in the classroom, Mackenzie is also committed to her own professional growth as she is currently pursuing a graduate degree in education administration. The third award this evening is the Outstanding Middle School Educator. This is going to be presented to Kayla Chin. Kayla is an art teacher at Southern Middle School and all the way from Lexington. She is an outstanding educator and mentor who works intentionally to ensure students feel seen, supported, and encouraged to express themselves creatively. Her commitment to students and student learning is evident in a number of ways, but I'd be remiss if I did not share that Kayla has been recognized at Southern Middle School's Teacher of the Month, not once, not twice, but 3 times, counting, in just 3 years, too. Congratulations, Kayla, that's excellent. All right, our final award this evening is the Outstanding High School Educator, presented to Ashley Dino. Ashley is a history teacher at Warren Central High School in Bowling Green, where she teaches both standard and AP courses in U.S. and world history. She was also instrumental in establishing the SMILE program, which is a program that supports refugee students in the Bowling Green community. In addition to her work in the classroom, Ashley collaborates with other schools and other districts to strengthen social studies instruction more broadly throughout the Commonwealth. Well done, Ashley. Okay, group photo time. Jill makes everybody look fine. All right, one more round of applause for these outstanding educators from near and far. We appreciate you guys. Your work reminds us of why this profession matters. Thank you so much. Dr. Whaley, back to you, sir.
We are winding down this part of the program this evening, but before we completely move out into the atrium where we're going to be honored with a meal this evening, it is truly my honor to recognize an individual whose generosity and vision continue to shape lives in meaningful and lasting ways. Tonight we celebrate Janice Rose, who probably didn't have any idea that this was going to happen, as the recipient of the Honored Benefactor Award. Through her commitment to education and her deep compassion for others, Janice has created opportunities that extend far beyond campus. Through the Murray State University Foundation Incorporated, Janice established the Danny Rose Autism and School Psychology Enhancement Fund for Excellence, which supports students and faculty at Murray State University who are making a difference in the lives of individuals with autism spectrum, who are on the autism spectrum. This fund builds upon the work of the former Center for Autism Spectrum Disorders Fund, expanding its reach and deepening its impact across education, research, and service. Janice is a proud 2-time graduate of Murray State University, earning her bachelor's degrees in elementary education and English in 1967, followed by a master's degree in early childhood and elementary education in 1970. Alongside her late husband, Dr. Jack Rose, she dedicated her life to education, to service, and family, values that continue to guide her giving. What makes this gift especially meaningful is the inspiration behind it. Janice established this fund in honor of her grandson, Daniel James Rose, who lives with the autism spectrum disorder. His impact is woven into every opportunity this fund creates, supporting future educators, advancing knowledge, and ensuring that individuals with autism are seen, supported, and empowered. Mrs. Rose, your generosity is not only an investment in our university, it's an investment in people, in potential, and in a more inclusive future. Please join me in congratulating and thanking Janice Rose for her extraordinary impact. But first, you realize there's a lot of pressure on me not to drop this. Mrs. Rose, would you be able to? And again, it's kind of in the shape of a blue flame caused by a blue spark. It reads, Honored Benefactor, presented to Janice Rose, April 28, 2026, by the College of Education and Human Services. You've done so much for us. So in closing, let me thank you, Murray State alumni and friends who have made this evening so special. Let me thank our special guests who have come from afar in inclement weather to participate with us this evening. Let me thank the Sodexo crew that has made arrangements for our dinner this evening. And I hope that all of you will stay, recognizing that not all of you can stay. But I want you to know that you are all welcome. We couldn't help our students make their dreams of becoming teachers, professionals, counselors, social workers, speech-language pathologists, the list goes on, police and correctional officers, Secret Service agents, and much more happen without you, our alumni, our guests, our benefactors. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming, and safe travels tonight. But first, we have dinner. On your way out, please stop by the table just outside the store where the programs were and meet Dr. Magro and pick up a copy of a signed book. We are dismissed for dinner. Thank you. Thank you so much.